All right, what's up, everybody? This is a huge moment for us because we got Jason Aponte, who just spent the last 2 days at the Senior Bowl. And so he's going to come on with Blake and I, and we're going to just talk Senior Bowl and talk casually. That was the plan originally this week. And then we had this huge bombshell come in last night. Obviously, this is something Blake and I are going to break down more in depth later in the week. Obviously, Grant and I are going to hit it tomorrow. Jason on his podcast, the Sprint Right Option podcast with Andrew. They do phenomenal work. Check them out. They're definitely going to probably hit this week. And of course, on 49ers Goldmine, the site Jason now works for, they also do great work. Check them out. They're going to also hit this week, but we'll just get some quick thoughts on the Stafford trade and then talk about the Senior Bowl. So what's up, Jason? How are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. It's the craziest week I think I've ever had in my life. And then it just, with these last 2 days, if I sound like my throat hurts a little, it's because, we've just been going crazy, like just with the content and stuff. So we weren't sleeping much and I just got in, but I'm doing it for you, man.
Hey, we really appreciate it, man. We really appreciate you. And so let's just get into it. Let's talk about what were your quick thoughts on the Stafford trade. We can start with you, Jason, or we can start with Blake, whoever wants to hit it first.
Go ahead, Blake.
All right, so I can go first. So for the Rams, I think what they're doing is super interesting. They haven't they haven't taken a first rounder since 2016, and they're not going to take one till like 2023 or 2024, I believe, one of those 2 years. But it's crazy that they're actually like successful with this method. So that's one thing. And for the second, I think this was awesome for the Lions, getting future picks, getting Goff to be like that bridge guy who's, I think, a solid bridge. The NFC West is still going to be the best division in the league, which is tough for you guys, knowing you're Niners fans. But yeah, the NFC West is an absolute bloodbath now, even more than it was last year, now that there's another good QB. So those are my initial thoughts. I thought this was really good for the Lions and really solid for the Rams. I think they're a top 3 team in the NFC now.
That's what scares me more than anything. I spent this entire year going back and watching Sean McVay's offense because I thought he was masterful this year, especially with like some of the ways that he runs the concepts on the back end and just how he generates throws for Jared Goff, right? So now you have this play designer who's also a really good play caller and a guy who doesn't need that help. You don't have to be in Matthew Stafford's ear all the way to the 10th second and before the mic cuts off. And literally the best quarterback for that team before Matthew Stafford got there was if they put McVay's head on Goff's body. Like if they did it that way, because he was so good at pre-snap understanding where things are coming from and helping them out and things like that. Now you have a guy who's been in the league. We all know how we felt about him and everything. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock for everything that we're taking right now, and that's fine. Things like that happen, but like all indications are that this happened last minute. When you let a team hang around with that guy and it seemed like McVay was desperate to get off of Goff, and then when you start to see the terms, it's like, okay, you're like, man, 2 first rounders, Goff, and like, okay, that's a lot. But then you start to think about this, and Vish, you could tell me if I'm crazy, or Blake. Something about this feels like McVay wants to win a bowl in the next year or two, and he's not going to be the coach in 3 years. So who cares if you don't have draft picks? I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. I'm about to get another job somewhere else. If he wins a bowl this year, the next year with Stafford, Donald, Ramsey, he can dictate what he wants to do wherever he wants to go. So I don't, it's not even a done deal that he'll probably be there forever. I don't think. He might just be like, I'm out of here. I already won here and I can go somewhere else and do it. So, you know what? As much as I talk about being smart and stuff like that, I have to praise the Rams for just doing what they want to do and getting their guy, right? Everybody's like, oh, you traded for Jalen Ramsey, you traded for Aaron Donald. I mean, you signed Aaron Donald, then you do this thing like they get who they want to get. And I applaud teams that take shots like that, man. I really do. Like, and what's funny is 3 out of the last 4 years they've been playing in January, and this year they'll be playing in January again. Like it's and that's all that really matters, man. A consistent playoff winning team. That's Sean McVay, man.
Right. And so this one hurt, right? Yeah. Because everything I've been pushing for this for a very long time. To me, this was the guy who, in my opinion, has been so underrated his entire career, who's that talented physically. I really think he is. And everything that I was said on why he's the perfect fit for the 49ers applies to the Rams just as much, right? So I can't sit here and say the Rams made a bad move because all of these things apply. And look, the price was a little steep. I agree with that. It really bothers me. It really, really bothers me that they got rid of Jared Goff. To me, that was always the one thing that when I looked at the Rams, I was confident. I was like, hey, this will never be a Super Bowl team regardless of how good their defense is going to be because they have 2 top 5 defensive players, regardless of how good their receivers are, their system is, because they're paying this guy too much money to be a very, very mediocre quarterback. Well, now he's gone. And Jason, you touched on it, right? The Rams do things in terms of the moves they make that I've always been taught in every type of coaching clinic I've watched, every type of football book I've read, everything I've learned is that what they're doing is wrong, right? They're crazy. It's unorthodox. It's unique. But for whatever reason, they have 4 winning seasons in 4 years under Sean McVay. The season that everybody wanted to write him off when their entire offensive line was hurt, when they had the Brandon Cooks contract, they had Gurley, all of that. They went 9-7. They cut Gurley. They didn't worry about that. They somehow unloaded Cooks. And then they randomly traded for Ramsey. So then I thought that was done. But you know what? All these crazy moves are still yielding to success. And you can say, well, have they not won the Super Bowl? The entire point of the NFL is not like you can try to win the Super Bowl, but only one team does that. The goal is to get into the tournament. If you get into the playoffs, everybody says you got as good a shot as anybody to win the Super Bowl. And they get themselves into the playoffs. And so I think this is a great move for them. And I don't know if it would have been the most prudent for the 49ers. And, if they had made that move, again, it's something that goes against what I would have thought. But ultimately, Jason, I think that you hit it on the head. And there's something I really respect about Sean McVay, not riding the fence with Jared Goff. He stood by Jared Goff for 3 years. He never said a bad word. He always took the blame in press conferences. You never saw leaks about whether Sean McVay has reservations about Jared Goff. He always coddled him. He always protected him. This year, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I've never seen a guy turn so hard on somebody, but he said he was out on Goff. He decided he was out. And what I really respect about Sean McVay is the fact that once he decided he was out, he didn't play the waiting game. He didn't say, well, I'm going to ride with Jared because until I find a better option, blah, blah, blah. He recognized he wanted Matthew Stafford, and he went and got him. And, I really respect that from the Rams' perspective. They're going to be really good next year. I think the Niners are still going to be very good with Jimmy Garoppolo. Even with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think there's still a lot to be positive about if you're a Niners fan. There's still a lot of dominoes to fall. There's still a lot of different guys they can get. But I really respect what the Rams did here, and I think it's a phenomenal move for them.
The other thing is that, I mean, I don't even know if this is an overly simplistic way of looking at it, but I mean, the end justifies the means. If you're able to get into the playoffs all the time and you're talking about, yeah, okay, you don't have draft picks and everything, but like you said, you're competing for a championship every year, and that's the goal, and he basically what he did when he there is he got the same roster. And then he fixed it. They got Sammy Watkins. He Robert Woods takes off. They get Cooper Kupp. And, like I said, not only do I pay attention to the Rams because they're in the division, at least this is what I said about the 49ers offense all year. You can be a bad team and still be fun to watch. The 49ers offense wasn't fun to watch. Even with Jared Goff, when I was watching what McVay was doing and how he was dialing up the like that first drive against the Bucs on Monday Night Football, I think that was he ran the same play 3 times. He flipped it and then flipped it again and then flipped it 3. It was the same concept, everything. And the Bucs couldn't stop it. I'm like, this man is all the way in his bag. So it's always nice to watch that. Now you're talking about combining that with a guy who doesn't hamstring your offense in terms of your ceiling. My goodness, man. I'm just shuddering at the thought of it. I mean, 49er fans have been telling me, yeah, we own them. You don't own them when Matthew Stafford is their quarterback. You don't. That's not the same team. Sorry.
I also wanted to shout out, too, is Cam Akers came on super strong at the end of the year. They had the number 1 defense. We finally get to see Matt Stafford with a competent organization. And I know being a Packers fan and playing his team twice a year, how good this dude is. And obviously not really many people around the league watch him because it's Detroit. And I mean, the media doesn't care about them at all. But Matt Stafford has been the one reason people would tune into those games. And now him in LA is going to be, it's going to be fun to watch. Not going to be fun to play against for our respective teams, but that team is I got to put him top 3, I'd say, especially with, I think you hit it, Jason, too, with Stafford's like ability to actually process a defense and not have to have like McVay in his ear the whole time. That was one of the things that got exposed in their Super Bowl run, is the Patriots would just disguise their defense before the timer went out in the helmet. And then right after that, they would just get into it, and Goff would be like, I don't know what to do. So Stafford's able to actually, figure that out. So, man, that's going to be a dangerous offense.
And then you have to respect the arm talent. He can go down the field, he can do things like, that unlocks everything else. Like Bobby Trees isn't exactly like a deep guy or anything like that. But I'm talking about like a guy like Higbee and Gerald Everett. They're going to see like huge spikes, especially how much they run 2 tight ends, like a bunch, man. Like that was like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like when I watched McVay, even in that 9-7 year, he makes the transition to 2 tight ends at the end of the year. And he's like taking people to the shed. And then this year, there was like a 5-6 week stretch of just like whatever he called against whatever defense, he was getting everything that he wanted with Jared Goff, man. Like, again, you can be bad, you can be mediocre, but you can be fun to watch too while being that. And I think there's nothing worse than a boring offense.
Yeah, and you touched on it, right? The arm talent. Like, I don't think people realize when we're talking Matthew Stafford how gifted this is. For me, the most gifted quarterbacks in NFL history, we're talking Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Dan Marino. Those are like the best throwers of all time. Matthew Stafford is really close to being in that conversation when we're talking as just a pure passing talent. He is that gifted. And I've seen this a lot on the Niners timeline, that the Lions won the trade. And, I just think it's a coping mechanism for Niners fans, of a way to say, well, look, the Lions won the trade. They got this. Unfortunately, the Lions' future first-round picks are 2022 and 2023. I don't understand here, when the Rams have been functional without having first-round picks the last 5 years, why not having first-round picks 2 years from now is going to affect the now for them. Ultimately, for the Rams, the reason they won this trade, to me, is that they got cheaper at quarterback. And that's the big detail with Matthew Stafford. He is a lot cheaper than Jared Goff. And that's why I thought Matthew Stafford was a perfect fit for the 49ers, because he's he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's cheaper than Jimmy Garoppolo. So to me, that's the big detail. Ultimately, does this make the Rams any more vaunted than they were? Yes, but I still think the Niners got a good shot. There's a lot of things that need to happen still. But to discredit the Rams and discredit McVay and discredit what they did here, I don't think that's the take to have, because what McVay has done in his last 4 years is phenomenal. What the Rams have done with these unorthodox, unique, crazy, nuts type moves that they've done is just absolutely insane. And McVay has proven time and time again that he's one of the best game planners in the NFL, and he's an excellent coach. So I'm excited to see how this season and everything goes out. I've seen too much just on the timeline of Niners fans just saying, well, the Rams won the trade and Stafford isn't that good and all of that. And, I'm just going to be sitting back. Unfortunately, it's not with the Niners, but when he's not playing the Niners, I'll be enjoying the perception around him changing. Hopefully the perception can stay the same, though, when he plays the Niners and he can lose both those games.
My goodness, I just want to see this offense with a competent quarterback, man. Like I think that now you're really about to see Sean McVay go crazy on this league, man. Like and that's the scary part, He's been doing all this with Jared Goff, and it's just scary, man. It's the Shanahan offset. Like even him and LaFleur's won 26 games in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
26 games in 2 years. He made 2 straight NFC championships, man. Like LaFleur, McVay, instant success. Helps that you have Aaron Rodgers, but come on, man. You can't dismiss what LaFleur is doing over there either.
Agree. Like what he's done to win, 26 games in 2 years? It's not like McCarthy was doing that. Right.
That's the point, right? So we all talk about Mike McCarthy's being carried by Aaron Rodgers. They didn't win 13 games back-to-back, even in the heyday. That was never their thing. And for them to do it, and then in this offseason, right, for us to complain about them not adding another wide receiver in free agency or adding one in the draft, and they drafted Jordan Love, they didn't miss a beat, and they still went 13-3. It's just like, good quarterback play will help you out when you're down a little bit. But yeah, man, LaFleur, the Shanahan tree, it's all over the league. You see 7 teams doing it. You'll probably see 9 or 10 next year that are going to be running it when you talk about Saleh and everybody else that's going to be adapting this offense, man.
Mm-hmm.
Blake, quick thoughts on LaFleur, and then I got one more thing, and then let's cut the Matthew Stafford and get into the Senior Bowl. So, Blake, what are your thoughts on your head coach, a guy I've made fun of to you a lot? Ooh, looks like we lost Blake here.
That's facts. So I guess we can say beforehand, Vish wasn't too high on LaFleur. Just for the record, putting it out there, Vish was pretty against him, wasn't very high on him. And his first year, the team won a lot of ugly games, right? A lot of them labeled them as like overachieving. They went 13-3. This year, same record, but I think the offense was clearly a lot better. And it wasn't just winning off of Aaron Rodgers. Guys were getting schemed open. And like Jason said, they didn't really help their offense too much. I mean, they drafted A.J. Dillon, but it's not like he played more than like Williams did. He was the third running back. So they did amazing in the second year. And I think some of that's to Nathaniel Hackett, who they hired as the OC. I think he did a really, really good job coming in and helping with some of the offensive schemes. But yeah, that's my last, or actually one more thing too, was the report that got leaked. The Rams called about Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers said no way. That's what I was always of the mindset of. They'll definitely keep him this year. Kind of crazy to move off a guy who just won an MVP. There will be other guys that are leaving, like possibly Corey Linsley, Aaron Jones, hopefully Kevin King. But
hopefully Kevin King, Blake.
Yeah, sorry for the slander, but man, that I'm not gonna get those Scotty Miller thoughts out of my head. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to be here at least for the next year, and then we'll see with Jordan Love.
So that was the scariest thing for me. I was afraid. I was scared the whole time that he was going to go to the Rams. I was like, oh no. I was like, and then this happens. But yeah, so that was validated when the report came out, because they went right to him and did it. So
yeah, so I just want to kind of put a bow on this entire topic with two things. Just with the LaFleur thing, first, the Rodgers thing is scary, but I think the most disappointing thing of the Rodgers thing, my big takeaway is, damn, he's probably not an option for the 49ers this offseason too, so we might as well just put a cap on that, and that he's probably going back to Green Bay for at least one more year in the foreseeable future. And the other thing I wanted to say about LaFleur is that this idea that he's just a Shanahan, McVay kind of, like, he just does what they do is actually, it's not true. And a guy named Ben Fennell, he breaks down tape on the Packers all the time. He's really good at what he does. You should give him a follow on Twitter. But he posted this on Twitter, and it's in regards to RPOs. McVay, in the last 2 years in the NFL, is 31st in RPOs. LaFleur was second this year. LaFleur has adapted his offense to fit his personnel and fit his scheme, and he's done a really good job. I think a lot of the reason people were down on him, and I fell into this trap, it was his performance with the Tennessee Titans, which was less than ideal. But, I mean, when you go back and look and you realize that their quarterback was Marcus Mariota, you kind of understand why they had that. Right. You kind of understand why they had that performance. And then finally, in regards to Matthew Stafford, again, it is disappointing. I think I'm the most disappointed person out there, just because this was my guy and I've been defending him so hard. And, it's going to be awkward for me because all those conversations, all those receipts I've been collecting the last 4 or 5 years telling people Matthew Stafford's a really, really, really good quarterback in a crappy situation. Now I have to watch him succeed I've gotten what I wanted. I've gotten Matthew Stafford in a good situation. It's just the situation of a team that is going to heavily affect the chances of my team. And so that's unfortunate. But again, it's not the end of the world. Ultimately, the Niners still have a good thing going for them. And, we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo's limitations so much and we harp on them, and they're true. And it's because we always hear that Kyle Shanahan has his reservations. But Jimmy Garoppolo is still a solid player. He's definitely one of the 25, 24, 23 best starting quarterbacks in the NFL. He is definitely a starting quarterback in the NFL. And the Niners have proven that they consistently win with him on the field. And if they get everybody back and the defense gets Nick Bosa back, which would be huge, they can still win 12 games next year with Jimmy Garoppolo.
And the funny thing is, and this is how you know, right? When all year we had been yelling for an increase of 10 to 15% in quarterback play, and this team would have been in the playoffs.
That 10 to 15% is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's probably more, right? Like all we were saying was don't throw 4 picks, just throw 2, and we can still win the game. Like 2's too many, but 4 is way too many, like Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, So like the top 5 defense, even without Nick Bosa, yes, Salah's gone, but it's going to be pretty much the same scheme. So yes, 49ers fans, I know that you don't want to hear it, but yes, Jimmy Garoppolo is still going to probably have a chance to win you 10 games. this year. Like, that's very possible, man. And the defense will have a lot to do with that. If the running game gets humming, if guys are available, if you're not playing behind the sticks and you're actually moving, you're actually moving the ball on first and second down and putting Garoppolo only in third and second, third and 5. You know that it's like third and 9 and third and 10 is a little bit like way more dicey. So it's totally possible. But again, the ceiling is just capped with the ceiling of this team. I feel like is 2019, in my opinion. Like, you saw the ceiling of what this offense could be when all its parts are there. But now that Ayuk is there, I guess you could make an argument for that. What I mean by that is just everything went right in 2019. You're never going to be able to duplicate what happened that year, all the way through with injuries and stuff like that. So, stinks.
All right. So let's get into the Senior Bowl. We've talked about quarterbacks. We're going to talk about quarterbacks all season. I think Blake has already become kind of a Niners fan because he's talked about the Niners quarterback situation so much in the last few months. But Jason, you got this really cool opportunity to attend the Senior Bowl. You got to talk to people. You got to see it happen. First, just walk us through what it was like to go there, what it was like to be there. Just what was it like? It's a new experience for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I want to convey to everybody when we talk is like, I'm just like you guys, right? So like, imagine if they told you, hey, you just got to come down here. You get to come down and like sit around and talk with people. You get access to Matt Rule, you get access to Coach Flores, you get access to their assistants. You start to ask them questions about play calling and stuff like that, and they tell you, I'm taking one quarter, this guy's taking another quarter, like, and then all the gems that they like, the best thing that I ever did when I was there was just sit around and just like listen. I just wanted to hear like people talk. And Matt Rule's first presser, I was super impressed with Matt Rule. First of all, the like yin and yang of like Flores and Rule, right? So in the stadium, if you hear somebody yelling throughout the whole stadium because it's socially distanced, there's not many people there, it's Matt Rule. If you hear nothing, that's Brian Flores. Like, Brian Flores does not, he starts practice and he ends practice. He and then that's it. And he's hands off. Matt Rule, and this is something that I learned, was an O-line coach, tight end coach, defensive line coach, so he's hands on and he's always yelling, right? And he's always like getting guys hyped. Like, I was impressed with him, man. The Panthers, if they get a quarterback, that's a team that you really should be looking at, man. Like, they're really good, man. But just being able to rub elbows with people from like NFL Network, you see them on TV, like you're looking up, there's Andrew Siciliano, all these guys, and it's just like, man, this is a dream come true, man. And then you get to sit and just watch the game, and you get to take your videos and your tweets and stuff, and it was a blast, man. I can't wait for next year, man. This week was like the coolest week ever, man. And it's again, it's something that I dreamt of doing when I was a kid, being press credentialed and actually media, not a guy who bought a ticket to the game and is giving his, opinions from the stands. Like, that it's a bracelet. I mean, I'm still wearing it because I didn't go to sleep or whatever from last night, but like, yeah, it's really cool, man. I had a blast, man. And it was as cool as you would imagine, easily, man.
No, that's awesome. And so you said Flores is very very quiet. Do you still think he can get his point across and people respect him a lot? Because seeing him on the Patriots sideline when they'd show him when he was the DC, I feel like you never saw that dude talking. Like, he was just staring, disturbing everything.
Yeah. You know why, Blake? That man's presence. He walks in the room like he's no nonsense, and he's not a rah-rah guy. That's all, like, look into my eyes and listen to me. And I mean business, and they all buy in. I love the contrasting styles of them, because Rule gets me hyped because he's yelling. Mm-hmm. And then if Flores was my coach and I just see him over there looking like this guy that, like, when we were doing a press conference, I was like, I'm not even gonna ask him a question. Like, I can't. I'm too scared. He's gonna like tell me to like shut up or something, and I'll just be like, sure, no problem, Flores, you got it, buddy. But I like that. I like that part. Like, you understand that the guy behind you isn't all rah rah blah blah, bite your kneecaps off, right? You don't got to say all of those things if you want to. If you can have the presence to move guys like that, that's it. He's gonna be great, man. He's gonna be great. So
on Flores, right? Let's just touch on him one more time. So is what you're trying to say is that he's the kind of guy that, he walks into the room and everybody knows that that's the man. Nobody needs to be told that, this
everybody
guy
hushes up.
Yeah.
Everybody hushes up and they're just like, attention. Like, that's it. And he's not going to get your attention. Like, if he's not talking, then you're in trouble. Like, like he's just going to walk in. He's all about his business, man. Crazy.
So here's an interesting angle, and I don't think anybody would have asked you about this. So we look at the players and Flores, right? What about the assistant coaches? How did they look next to Flores with this type of thing? Because I'm sure that they feel a little intimidated too, just because he's a man that commands such a presence the way you've described him. What were they like running their drills, and how was their interaction with him?
They were really good. Those guys, again, this audition isn't just for players. Every day that this film is out, you're on there too. You have to show. So what I found interesting is the play calling changing every quarter, right? So Kellen Mond didn't start the game well, and I was just like, oof. Like I don't know. Like he was missing a lot of throws. He was not putting it on the guy. Like it was just he was missing reads. Then he gets back in the game in the third quarter, and I can't even remember who switched it up, but he looked completely different. Like they put him in spaces of just like quick passing, and there's a guy over the middle usually that he can hit either up the seam or in the middle of the field just sitting. And I thought that was interesting. Those guys, so I don't remember who they are, but all those guys are competing like, yo, I play called that whole third quarter. And look at what happened. Mon won the MVP. Mon won the Senior Bowl MVP. I was not impressed with Kellen Mond, not even a little bit. Nothing about him was like, I was like, oh my God, look, nothing. Sorry. I'm not trying to be like, it sucks because the Senior Bowl for Jim Nagy is supposed to be a big thing for quarterback play. That was not this in this Senior Bowl. They were chanting for Mac Jones. It wouldn't have been much better if Mac Jones got out there. He was not good the time that he was there. Like, you know what it is about media? They'll show you the one throw, that out throw, but they're not going to show you all the other ones. Not Mac. But then we were out, and they were like, hey, Mac's not playing tomorrow. And we were like, what? They're like, Mac's not playing tomorrow. And we get there, and Mac didn't play. You know why? He didn't want to kill his stock.
Really?
He's in Bama, and they're chanting, we want Mac, and he won't go out there because he didn't want to kill his stock. Like, that's the way I looked at it, and that's the way it was being – that was the buzz around it. It was just like he had such a bad week or such a regular week where it was just like – I love how people are like, oh, those are NFL throws. Yeah, it's like a 5-yard out. Like, like – I get it. He's not pushing the ball down the field. Like at least Jamie Newman the first day, it was like a mind-blowing throw to Austin Watkins, who, my goodness, Austin Watkins is incredible, man. He jumped off of the tape and he was amazing in the Senior Bowl. But it was a bomb, like the kid didn't even have to slow down. It's right in the breadbasket, like from the far hash. I was like, wow, this kid has an arm. So you can tell he's raw. He's a project. Trey Lance is in a project. Jamie Newman's a project. He's developmental, a developmental project. He cannot play in this league until 2 or 3 years having under the league. No. It's Bama. They're chanting, we want Mac. You got to play, bro. He knew what he was doing. Nah. I'm done with bum ankles and quarterbacks.
You already had that this season with the Niners, man. You're sick of it.
High ankle sprain still hasn't dropped his location. Like I told him, I'm going to run down on him. I'm done. Like he's taking all my players, but yeah, man. But yeah, I mean, it was great. It was great, man. It was everything that you thought. Like Austin Watkins jumped off the film. Michael Carter was incredible. Quentin Morris made an amazing catch that they called a touchdown. That was obviously like stopped at the 1, but it was an amazing catch that jumped off. Amari Rodgers, where it's the Amari Rodgers debate, and you could tell me what you think about him, is very interesting, right? Because while we're there, we're talking. I'm like, yo, I'm here to see Amari because when I'm watching him on one-on-ones, his releases are great. Inside, outside, he's getting hands off him. And when you're watching those DB drills, the DBs are at a big disadvantage because they don't know there's no help or anything like that. You're out there on the island. The receiver's basically going to run whatever they want to run, and the quarterback's lock and step with him, right, with no pressure. So it's like the ball's going to go out right. But the first 2 to 3 steps is usually where you can judge where that rep was won. Like if the DB is getting hands on him and pushing him back and he's struggling, he wins the rep. Even if he gets by him and catches the ball for a touchdown, he wins the rep because he put hands on him. Amari Rodgers was hand fighting and not letting anybody on him, and then he was either inside, outside. He looked great. But Leo brought up a point to me that I had not thought of, that in the game, all of those all of those 50-50 balls that you see in practice, they don't come down in the game. He's like, he doesn't go get those in the game. So he was trying to say maybe he's more of a practice player. It was really good to dunk on Leo in front of him when he was like going off in the game. And I was like, this looks like a game, Leo. This isn't practice. Like, you know, but he looked great, man. And I think that his draft price is one of the most interesting things, because people ask me, like, where do you think Amari Rodgers is going? Well, if you would have told me before the Senior Bowl, probably would have said 3rd round. I think that because of the limited information we're going to have, I think Amari Rodgers pushed himself into the 2nd round, at least the back end, you know, and we'll see, you know, where he lands.
Yeah, so on Amari Rodgers, here's a question I had. When I was watching what people were putting out of the clips of Amari Rodgers releases were incredible, okay? They reminded me a little bit of Deebo Samuel 2 years ago when he was killing everybody off the line of scrimmage. Here's the one thing I did notice, though. On the back half of a lot of his routes, Amari Rodgers would get caught, and his his receptions would become a little more contested. And that's part of it, right? If you can separate off the line of scrimmage, that's great, but you can only run 3-4 yard routes. If you're going to be a high level NFL receiver, you got to be able to deaccelerate and accelerate throughout the route and be able to keep that separation. So what were your thoughts on that?
See, that's a great point, right? Because you notice that, right? The guy shouldn't be able to catch up to you after you beat him off of the release, especially when he's putting his body weight in front of you. Like he's already leaning this way, so you have the advantage when you slip by him. You should be able to continue to and that's a great point. It is. It makes me nervous because then you start to think, where's the ceiling? I mean, anybody can progress. But for me, when I think of Amari Rodgers selfishly for the 49ers, I like him in the slot, like a little slot guy. Let him go against, you know, whoever their 3rd, 4th best corner is. Sometimes, you know, the slot corner is the best corner on some teams, but I would love to see him in those matchups because that's where he'll succeed. And it's a good point. He was living very intermediate with the routes. They weren't, you know, I know he had the 50-50 ball on the jump and everything. You saw that. That's cool, but that's not really what he was doing. You know, they ran the Debo sweep with him. Like he's literally a smaller Debo. Like that's like how or at least the way Debo's utilized right now. Like not the way that, because that's not Debo's skill set. That's not his skill set. That's just how he's utilized in this offense. He's better than that. Trust me.
And
but Amari Rodgers,
I know you mentioned. I was gonna say, I know you mentioned Michael Carter earlier, who is someone who's really good. I was a pretty big fan of him. So he's North Carolina running back. His backup's really good too. I'm not sure what year he is, but. What were your thoughts on him and like what made him stand out compared to some of the other running backs there?
Man, we were talking about it before we got on, man. You know, when we walked over and talked with his family, because they would allow this in the stadium. You know, he scored a touchdown. Did you see the touchdown that he scored? That like they just moved the pile with him and everything. Like it was crazy. And the whole time his family is yelling. And I have the video. Like I'll post it, but you can hear them in the background. When we went over there, I said, what is it about your son that he's not going down on first contact? He's like, no. He was like, that's not what we do. His father's like, that's not how we do it. He was like, if the first guy gets you down, he's like, that's a problem. Jump cuts, just missed tackles, like straight up pushing guys off, made a nice catch in the backfield. Man, that kid is good, man. You know what? Like, look, we love Najee. You know, we think that he's a stud, right? Bay Area guy, all that stuff. It sounds good. I would not be surprised if we look back on this draft and said Michael Carter's the best running back out of this draft. Like, honestly, man, he looked incredible, man. I was like, get that man in the Shanahan system so he can run for 1,500 yards. Not going to happen, but, I mean, he was incredible, man. Like, I had heard all the buzz about him, and then to actually see it with my eyes right there in the game, I was like, man, this guy's electric, man. He's got like a little bit more juice than everybody else.
So I wanted to touch on my favorite player in the draft. Unfortunately, I don't think he played in the game, but I know he had a hell of a week in practice. What was the buzz around Kadarius Toney? For me, Kadarius Toney is my favorite player in the draft. I think Kadarius Toney has got a little Debo to him. I think he's got a little Percy Harvin, and I think he's the guy that people are looking for in their offense because he allows any creative offensive mind to have ultimate creativity, and I think he's going to transform an offense when he gets there next year. So what was the buzz around him? What do you like about him? What was your thoughts on him?
So the buzz around him was just that he was getting himself open. And you see it on the film, right? And you know, this is so funny because we're talking about like, oh man, I love this guy's technique. Well, the way that he gets himself open is very unorthodox. Like he's not stemming guys. He's he's just like kind of like wiggling a little bit. And then it's like, boom, like he makes his move. And, you know, the problem with Toney, and this was the buzz around him, is the drops. You know, that one where he really lost the DB and then dropped it. That's obvious, but that had been happening like all week, man, and it sucks, right? So here's the thing. We had a discourse with people there when we're talking. We're all talking through our evaluations. Give me the guy that's going to get open. I think you can fix hands. Like there's guys who can catch everything, but they can't get away. Give me the guy that's leaving a guy 15 yards down the field, like away from him. Like even if he drops it, keep going to him. He can't drop them all. So that's what I think. It depends on where that lands on like dropping him on your board because you're like, oh, he's got the drops. It happens, but give me the guy that can get himself open, and he's already learned ways to get himself open that aren't orthodox. And that's you know what? Just get open. Don't care how you get open. You can run the most beautiful route. I'll say that's cool. Whatever. You run your weird little clunky route, but if you get open, I don't care, honestly, and all works.
So Blake, if you don't mind, just one more follow-up on Tony real quick. Yeah, what I did wanted to ask you, Jason, is that so I actually don't care about the drops. I know I saw the videos of the drops. Look, I don't care because to me, Kadarius Toney is not your DK Metcalf, where you line him up as your Z receiver the entire game, where he's away from the formation. You just line him up on the outside and you say, you got to go beat you got to go beat number one corners with go balls and 7 routes and all kinds of stuff like that. To me, he's a weapon. He's an offensive weapon. You line him up in the backfield. You run the wildcat with him. You bring him in. You run a jet sweep with him. You bring him in jet motion to create numbers in the run game. All those kinds of things. How did he translate as an athlete from that standpoint? Because when I watch him in Florida, to me, that's one of the best athletes in college football. Did that stand out when you saw the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, and he flashed in practice, man. He made this 50-50 catch that was just incredible, man. It's just like a guy who wanted to get the ball more, and you see all those things, right? And that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said, you know what, the drops are one thing, and that's fine, but give me the guy who's getting open, and he was open, man. Like, but the drops just put a little bit of damper on it. You're thinking about it the right way, and you're thinking about it the way that I was at that point because we had our discourse and we were talking with people, and I was just like, listen, man, if you can't teach getting open. You can't. Hands, he can just practice. Throw some bricks at him. He'll be all right. He'll get it.
Give him the jugs machine.
Yeah, that's it, dude. Just, but that was the other thing is, after like day 3, I think, everybody left the field. Amari's standing right in front of a jugs machine, and he's still going, man. And, I like it. Maybe that's for optics. I don't know. This is my first Senior Bowl. Maybe it's for optics because you're trying to make a good impression. I thought the best quote of the entire week was when Matt Rule said, I was here last year, because, well, here's what's funny. 29 teams were down in Mobile. What was the one team that wasn't down in Mobile? The Rams.
Mm.
Funny, right? Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, they don't have a pick in the next 12. Yeah, but no, they were really trying to figure a way to get all that stuff done. But Matt Rule said that he got in the elevator with somebody. He didn't want to say who. He said that it was just one elevator ride. This is somebody who's supposed to be highly drafted. He said after the 35-second elevator ride he had with him, he said he knew that he wasn't a fit. Whatever that kid did in his demeanor in 35 seconds killed any shot of Matt Rule wanting to draft him. And he said that was the part that's missing from the Senior Bowl. The personal stuff, like being able to talk to people. You do the Zooms, that's fine. He's like, but the personal touch is what we're missing. For him to know in 35 seconds in an elevator ride that guy's not a fit, that's some high level evaluating. And that's the one thing that I think I learned from all the scouts they kind of were saying around is I think it was Brad that said it. You have to try to find a way to evaluate integrity, if that makes sense in any way, right? Like I know that sounds cheesy. And that's not something you can quantify because you can't do anything on the field with it. But there's some guys that when you listen to them talk, you're like, yeah, he's a fit here, and I like his game, and that's really when you're going to find big fits, So I found that interesting. I really found that interesting that it could take you 35 seconds to know that guy's not going to be on your draft board anymore. Like, incredible, man. Frank Darby, that's a good one. Frank Darby looked good, towards the end of the game. It felt like at the end of the game, that offense started to pick up. Again, I just talked about Kellen Mond not being what he was the MVP. Des Fitzpatrick had one of the best catches of the game. He also had an egregious drop. It was so weird. It was like the hardest catch of the game he made, and then like he had one that like hit him in the face, and I was just like, dude, he won Offensive Player of the Game. Other guys, Darby looked good. Patrick Jones looked incredible, and that had to do with the fact that, like we were talking, Kellen Mond cannot feel any sort of pocket presence or anything like that, or pocket awareness. He was beating, different ways, hand fighting, bend, inside. He was using it all. Patrick Jones was on display, man. It was weird. Shaka Toney was getting beat all practice, almost every practice. And then in the game, he like beat a guy who was like whipping him the entire time. And it's like, is he a gamer? You know, like that's the fun part about all this. Like I literally watched Shaka Toney try to use some sort of spin move, and the guy just take him and just put him on the floor. And then in the game, he goes and he stems him with the right foot, and then he's already back inside and he moved on him. And I was just like, see, like where's that one on your reps? You know, like, but some guys are gamers, and that's kind of, you know, how you should be thinking about it. Like that's what makes this whole process so, like, I understand why people love the draft. I understand why people love watching players, right? For this reason, this sort of discourse. You may like something about him I don't like. You may like something about him that you don't, you know, like I love that. I love that sort of dynamic because we're able to bounce ideas. And then when you look back, like we were just talking about it last night, we were like, who were your draft catchers from last year? I was like, bro, I loved Hakeem Butler. I loved I wanted Hakeem Butler because I thought he was going to be AJ Green. He's like not even in the league anymore. Like I'm talking about like height wise, like and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, when you look back and you look at your misses, that's the funnest. That's the most fun part.
No, that's interesting for sure. I had one thing on your. You mentioned the Matt Rule elevator thing, and that something came right to my mind. So I don't know if you guys remember Ja'Kai Polite, who was a projected first rounder out of Florida. I really wanted the Packers to get him because we were looking for an outside linebacker after years of Nick Perry. But anyway, he fell to the beginning of the third round due to character concerns, and apparently his interviewing was just like absolutely dreadful. So that's very, very interesting point. And was there any guys that I know you talked on Michael Carter a little bit. Were there any other guys who you thought or that interacted with that had a really good character that you could get from the limited time? I mean, with COVID restrictions and stuff, like face-to-face action with them?
Yeah, the linemen, man, like Dickerson and those guys are about their business, man. I forget the one guy. I think his name is Meaners. He was incredible, man, as center. Yeah, he was really tearing people up, man. It was great. Quentin Morris he struggled a little bit. He's from Bowling Green, I believe. He struggled a little bit on one-on-ones. You know, when he faced Jabril Cox was somebody that I was very surprised with from LSU. He transferred. So I'm watching the film the first day, and I'm like, who is this guy that is blowing everybody up on one-on-ones against tight ends, and he's also like covering? Like he looked fluid, man. He looked great in this game too. He boosted his stock. You know, and this is Melifanu. This is what I noticed about him, right? Because he's a big name, if any. He was playing inside slot. He was playing outside corner. So, you know, the whole idea of maybe him being a safety, I don't know, man. Like they were showcasing him in a different way, and he was doing well. Like, and you know, the reason I knew he was doing well because you didn't hear his name called. They didn't throw to him. They didn't throw by his side when he was over there. You know, he had a really great game, man. And you know, the quarterback play helps the defense a lot. Ian Book is not good at football, man. Man, he had reads wide open, and all he does is just take off and run. And we're just like, what happened? It's right there in front of you. You know, like they're not even asking for it. And it was just bad. There was a lot of throws at people's feet. Man, there was just quarterback play was my most disappointing aspect of this, man. It was not fun to watch, honestly, man. Like Jamie Newman, he excited a little bit, but then in practice he threw like 2 egregious picks where, like, you know, 49er fans put their finger in the ear underneath linebacker. You don't see him and you just throw it right to him. You know, those were bad, man. You know, so I mean, it was just fun to watch all those things because does Jamie Newman take what happened this week and go in the toilet, or does he go and he uses this to springboard? You know, so like that's what makes this interesting. And I'll never doubt a player that is gonna work. You know, and that's what makes this fun, man.
Okay, so I want to take you back because one of the things you said when we first got into this conversation is that Mac Jones had a dreadful week at the Senior Bowl. And Blake and I weren't at the Senior Bowl. And what we got just reading the tea leaves was that Mac Jones stood out all week, except for
he stood out because everybody was so bad.
So I want to get into that, right? Because there's this thing that people don't understand from this idea of the Senior Bowl and all of that and the draft is that if you have a powerful agent, you can really drive a narrative and drive a stock with yourself. And a lot of these big-time draft analysts a lot of their sources are these big time agents and these lower level scouts. And if players are pushed a certain way, that's why they kind of all have the players evaluated a certain way. And that's why when they have a second round rated player, like 2 weeks before the draft, that guy turns into a first round player, and they come on TV and tell you, I turned on more tape of him and I realized he was a first round player. But it's no, people are telling you and you're changing your opinion. And it's all of that, right? It's the draft is so much of, it's not, rather than being a business where people sit and do evaluations by themselves. There are a few people that do that. It is a groupthink exercise where people try to come to a consensus on players and people try to drive certain opinions on them. So I went on a little long tangent, but the point I wanted to get to is how many powerful people were at the Senior Bowl, and could you feel that that certain agents and coaches or scouts or anybody was trying to push a certain kind of thing your way as somebody who was covering the event?
Yeah, I mean, when you go and you talk with the players and they're with their family, the agents are there, so you want to speak with them first, and find out, hey, is it okay to talk to your agent? I mean, is it okay to talk to your player? Like, do you want to gain him more exposure? We'd love to have him on, and like that's how you have to frame things, right? I think it's a great point that you brought up with that, right? Because if I hadn't got a chance to watch every single throw, like again, the Mac Jones video that's out there is that one throw, which was really impressive. It was with anticipation. Yeah, it was nice anticipation, something that an NFL quarterback should be doing, right? When you put that up against what Jamie Newman was doing, what Ian Book was doing, what Felipe Franks was doing, what is that his name, or is something like that, right? Like they kept saying that I look like him. Yeah, I was like, I don't think I look like him, but dude, I look like everybody apparently this week. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I think in terms of when you compare it to the quarterback play that was there, maybe he stood out because he was making throws and reads that were normal, but man, he's just so many checkdowns and just like regular, like 5 yards, 10-yard outs. It's not like, look, he'll be a solid quarterback probably in the NFL, right? And I don't even know why I'm saying it as dismissive, but when you're talking about drafting somebody, I want a little bit more upside. I want to be able to say that, this guy maybe needs a year or two, but his ceiling is much higher than Mac Jones. Mac Jones's ceiling is like, like great value Kirk Cousins, and I don't even I don't even know if that's a fair comp, but yeah, I was just throwing it out there. Yeah. Austin Rivers. There you go. That's what I look like too.
On that note, you did mention the Kirk Cousins thing. Oh, did you have something else, Vish?
Yeah. So if do you have one more question, or can I ask one more question?
No, you can go.
Okay, so you got to hear the buzz around Mac Jones, right? And I think something that gets lost in this process, and I think a lot of reasons why people misevaluate certain players, is that they look at the coaching that they received in college and they look at the system that they played in, and they think that's attributed to how good that player is. And they do it in the NFL too, right? Like people do it with Garoppolo or Goff or Baker Mayfield. A lot of these guys who play in very quarterback-friendly systems where the game is kind of processed for them. And, if you're a high-level thrower like Baker and you can make some big-time throws, then you succeed in that and you make some big-time throws. And then if you're Goff and Jimmy, where the throws are dumbed down a little bit more for you, you make those throws, but your efficiency stats are going to be off the charts because the offense is so good. So when you look at Mac Jones in comparison to Jamie Newman, do you think that the only reason people are saying Mac Jones is better is because he got to play in that Steve Sarkeesian offense and because he's been receiving NFL-level coaching the past 3 years?
And because Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Waddle, are you kidding me? That's if you had all four of those receivers to start your team right today, you'd be through the roof. Like, that's what you look for, right? How is he doing without a guy who's always wide open, right? Guys don't understand you right now. You're going to another team. You're not going to play with Waddle and Devontae Smith next year, right? Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like, you have to look at the talent around him and how everything's built for him. Basically, there was wide open throws all over the place. Ruggs would be running wide open by himself, and you just got to put the ball where he's at, and he's got it. I'm not trying to dismiss that because a lot of quarterbacks can't do that, but that's the part that makes me nervous about him. Is like, do you need every single the best receivers in the country, one after the other, for you to be good? That scares me.
And I just had one quick follow-up because you guys are both Niners fans, so maybe, Jason, you can go first. But if there's one guy from the Senior Bowl that maybe is a first or second or maybe even third round projection, like who do you want them to get that would fit on the Niners roster? Whether that's a quarterback, maybe D-back, O-lineman.
Look, put your fingers in your ears, 49ers fans. I'm going to play Madden. I don't want to play real. I'm not playing real football with this one. I want Michael Carter. Like, I really am that impressed with him, man. Like, he just – it didn't matter the quarterback. It didn't matter the situation. Like, they were throwing it to him in the flat. There's 3 guys in front of him. He makes 5 yards out of it. I didn't understand it. I don't understand it. Like, those plays don't look like highlights. But when you're able to make something with nothing, if you get a guy in space on one-on-one with him, he's going to be eaten up, man. He's just quick. The jump cuts. He's so elusive, man. It looked like he was covered in grease. Everybody who tried to put his arms around him, he just kept moving, man. And then to move the pile in that big thing, like the kid he invites contact. I was just blown away by the kid, man. I had already heard that one more person, Demetric Felton. So last year we had Antonio Gibson go from wide receiver to running back. This year you got Demetric Felton go from running back to wide receiver. I want to see Michael Carter or Demetric Felton in a 49er uniform. In Kyle Shanahan's positionless offense, what Demetric Felton would be able to do. He doesn't run, so he's not running back routes. Like, he's legit running wide receiver routes and running them very well. It's literally like I was typing to someone said, "Who's your draft crush?" And I was like, "I think it's Demetric Felton." The next play, they throw the ball to him on the sideline. He catches it. He makes a move, pushes the guy out the way. Boom, touchdown. I'm like, well, I was like, called that one, I guess, right? Yeah. No, Demetric Felton was like somebody who there was a lot of buzz around while we were there. And then once you do it in the game, then that's it. Boom, you win the weekend, man. So it was a lot of them, man. Like, I cannot wait to go back and watch the film when I actually get some sleep tonight. But tomorrow I will, and I can't wait to actually like look through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take that question, and I'm going to also live in the fantasy world as Jason, even though I'm pretty set that the Niners shouldn't take a wide receiver. For me, it's Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Are you kidding me? The run game, the pass game, and Kittle. We're talking about the greatest yak of all time. And, of course, we got the yak covered, and we need offensive linemen. So this is just a fantasy pick. This is not who they should pick. I'm not saying the Niners should pick this. I'm just telling you that that's my favorite player in the draft. And if all things equal, that's who I would love to see playing for the team that I'm cheering for. And Blake, let's throw it back to you. Who do you like for the Packers? I know you like Michael Carter a lot. Is that your guy that you want for the Packers?
Yeah, so I'm honestly not familiar with like what he's perceived to be drafted as. But I think Aaron Jones is probably going to walk. I know in the middle of the year they offered him like a top 5 paid rookie or running back contract deal, and he didn't take it. So I'm actually going to go with Chuba Hubbard. And I honestly, so I am not the biggest Oklahoma State fan. I've only seen a few highlights and a few games of his, but I think he would fit that like home run hitting. Like he can take it the length of the field any play that the Packers are going to miss when Aaron Jones is gone. I think Michael Carter is probably even better than Hubbard, and Hubbard's like the 3rd ranked running back by most metrics, but I think Hubbard would be awesome in filling that Aaron Jones role of early down. And then Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon can play in there too, but I'm interested to see what they do at running back, if they get someone, if they keep Jones. But yeah, I'm kind of high on Hubbard as someone in that McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur. Maybe even he goes to the Falcons because they desperately need a running back. Either Michael Carter or Hubbard go there. I think it'd be interesting to watch.
I love Aaron Jones, actually. I really do. I just don't think he's coming back. Like if I had to and the reason that everybody's always asking me like, why haven't you done a mock? I still need more information. This is what made this Senior Bowl so juiced. Is because it's going to be very limited combine. Like, this was your last chance to, like, really boost any stock that you had, and you can only go off of how many games they played this year and things like that. So it's not a full draft season, because of COVID and things like that. So that's what kind of made this game really juiced, right? Like, you have to make your statement now. That's what I said. Like, this is what I mean. I'm not talking about in any typical Senior Bowl year, but Amari Rodgers probably pushed himself into the 2nd round because you can only go off of what you saw. Right off and that's like the lasting impression that you're gonna see. He's gonna go kill a 3-cone. He's gonna look great like in short spaces. And I mean, unless he bombs the combine, I don't see how he can like fall into the 3rd round. I really don't.
So, guys, we've reached about 55 minutes. I don't want to take more of your time, Jason. I know you're exhausted. You've had a
It's
long
fine.
couple
And
of
you know,
days.
once you start talking, and you guys are really smart, and it's awesome to like talk with you guys. And then like now you're getting me hype about talking about it again because I just was like poop. But this is fine, man. We're good, bro.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate you coming on, Jason. And one thing I did want to say is I have a ton of respect for those guys that do the mock drafts because it's a ridiculously difficult exercise because you have to know like so many different players and be able to mock so many different players, and you have to make them all sound somewhat plausible because every single fan is only there to read their team's person, and if their team's person isn't mocked correctly, then they get really mad at you. So I have a ton of respect for the guys that do like 50 mocks in the next 2 months or so. But I'm of the mindset that I just think it's a stupid exercise. Like, I think it's fun. I think people have fun with it, but I think it's a waste of time. I think what fans need is more research and more availability on the players themselves, not just like, hey, what do these guys do? Give us like a breakdown of this and all of that. But that's just my opinion. The mock draft obviously gets consumed way more than anything I just named, and the guys that do it do a fantastic job. But I just wanted to share that. But ultimately,
no. And then the other thing is, Vish, and I think you're the one who pointed this out to me. Look at a mock in January and look at the mocks in April. Never going to look like the same.
Right. And that's why, if you remember, the one that always gets me is DJ Hayden and Bruce Irvin. Both those guys were third-round projections, like halfway through the draft process, through the combine. A week before the draft, everybody's got them as top 15 picks, and they both ended up going in the top 15. So it's just what creates buzz, who NFL teams like. But not to ramble, Jason, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciated your insight. This was fantastic. Everybody, we appreciated you sticking with us all the time. This will probably go on our channel, and we'll probably cut it up and post a few of the best clips because Jason absolutely killed it with the insight. And
thank you guys. I appreciate it. You're saving me from passing out at this point. That's what's good about it, I think.
Hey, I appreciate that. And we're gonna go live again next week, so we hope you can join us then. Thank you so much. Please check out Jason on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103. Check out his podcast with Andrew, the Sprint Right Option podcast. And finally, check him out on 49ers Goldmine. The guys there do an excellent job. They've created this amazing site for fan consumption, and Jason has some of the best work out there when it comes to his writing and everything. So please do check it out. And again, guys, please like, subscribe, and share this video just for our sake. We really appreciate you all joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.